Welcome to this online tutorial on how to search the Tusla Research Office databases. I also want to show you how to devise a search strategy to get the most out of the databases. Now, there's a lot to be covered in this tutorial, so if you find that it's going a bit quickly, feel free to pause or go back and look for a second or third time. The databases are accessed through the Tusla Research Centre webpage, which can be found from the main Tusla webpage. Scrolling down at the bottom, select Research Centre. Alternatively, you can go to tusla.ie/research and it'll bring you to the Tusla Research Centre webpage. And once you're on that webpage, if you don't already have an Open Athens account, you can apply for one by selecting Set up an account. You fill in the form with all of the required details and an account will be established for you. Once you have your account set up, go to Login and put in the login credentials that were sent to you when the account was set up. And when you log in, it will load and a page like this will appear. Here we can access various resources, which I'll describe in a minute. We can also apply for an interlibrary loan by clicking here. And when the form opens up, we can print it out, fill in all of our details of the article that we want that we can't find on the database, and send it to Bernado's. And Bernado's will source the article for you and send it on to you by email. Let's now look at some of the main sections of the previous page. Number 1 is the primary search option. Through this option, you can search various databases simultaneously. Number 2 is access to individual journal titles, such as adoption and fostering, etc. Number 3 is access to other databases, including the Science of Safety Knowledge Bank, for example. The primary search option allows us to search for databases either individually or simultaneously, and they include the SOC Index with full text, a large social sciences database, Academic Search Complete, which includes much social science and humanities content, Psychology and Behavioural Sciences collection, a broad database covering psychology, behavioural science and other disciplines, and the Social Work Reference Centre, an information resource aimed at social workers and mental health professionals. In order to identify our search terms, we should create an answerable question. And for this, we can use the PICO formula to break down our research question. PICO stands for problem or patient or population, intervention, comparison, and outcome. And in this instance, it is, say, an adolescent who is self-harming. So they are the population. The intervention would be counselling or support. The comparison would be no counselling or support provided. And the outcome would be a cessation of that self-harm. If someone was working on a school refusal case and they PICO'd out their question, this is how it might look once it's done. Now we'll create a list of words based on PICO with a specific focus on population, patient or problem, and intervention. We then try and identify all of the synonyms for these terms. Some top tips will be provided throughout this tutorial, and these include using the subject terms function, using Boolean operators, employing phrase searching, using wildcards, and refining by results. Back to the primary search option now. If I select Show All, I can see those 4 aforementioned databases. Selecting Advanced Search brings me to a search page with lots of options if I scroll down. I don't need to fill in all of these. I have a search field here, here, and here, and I can select drop-down options as well. And I can select and or not between my search options. And this is the aforementioned Boolean logic. Boolean operators or logic describes the 3 words that we can put between our search terms. And these words are and, or not. And is the default, and by its nature narrows. So when you put in and between 2 search terms, you're telling the database that the 2 search terms must be present. Or broadens. When you put or between your search terms, you're saying that either one or the other is acceptable. And or is very useful for dealing with synonyms. And not indicates that you are not interested in a specific but perhaps related search term. I just want to talk about why it's important that subject terms and synonyms are identified before we do our search on the database. So a subject term is a prescribed term that a database will add to an article when it is put onto the database. And each database has its own list of subject terms. And synonyms take into synonyms are describing the same thing in different ways, and each author could describe something slightly differently. An example here could be alcoholism, alcohol dependency, or alcohol addiction. And we identify those synonyms and include all of them in our search to broaden out the search as much as possible. To look up subject terms, we go to the main search page. And at the top of that page, under subjects, there's a list of 3 subject terms databases. The last option is the sociology thesaurus, and I'm going to use that in this instance. Once that page loads up, I put in my subject term for the self-harming adolescent, so it's self-harm. If I put in self-harm, select title contains, and select browse, and I will see then how this database describes self-harm. And in this instance, this database describes self-harm as self-mutilation. So that's the search term that I should use, or the subject term that I should use when searching this concept on the database. Many of our concepts and synonyms and subject terms will take the form of phrases, such as alcohol addiction, self-harm, school refusal. And when we're researching phrases, we need to ensure that we put the phrase in double quotation marks shown here. And that will ensure that the whole phrase is displayed in the search results and not just the 2 individual words of the phrase. So now we identify the search terms that will go into the database to do our search. And if you look here on this table that I've produced, on the left-hand side, I've P-coded out our search terms. As I said previously, the emphasis on P-code should be on the P, which is the patient, problem, or population, and the I, which is the intervention. And here now, the patient is going to be called search term 1, and that's our adolescent, juvenile, teenager, teen, or young person. And these are all of the different ways that we can describe our search term 1. And if you notice that young person is a phrase, so it gets the double quotation marks. The problem is search term 2, it's self-harm, self-injury, self-mutilation, or automutilation. And number 3 is the intervention, search term 3, and that's support group as a phrase, or therapy, or counselling, And notice there the 2 spellings of counselling are described, the British and the American. And you can also see there how OR has been introduced to deal with synonyms. To do a search, we go back to our main page. We select Advanced Search, and our search page is displayed, and we have our 3 search fields. And what we do is we put subject term 1 in the top field, subject term 2 in the second field, and so on. If we have more than 3 search terms, we can add in additional fields by clicking on the plus here. And you'll also notice that AND is the default between each of our search term fields. Here I've put each of the search terms into its own field, search term 1, 2, and 3. And now I do my search. And once my search is done, I'll get a list of results. And at that stage then, I can start to narrow down my results. So initially, I have over 700 results. And scrolling down, you can see several of these are abstracts only. So in order to remove those, I select full text on the left. And all of the abstract only articles are removed. And scrolling down, I have over 400, and I can narrow further. I might decide I only want to see articles that went through the peer review process. So I select peer review, and only articles that went through this process are displayed. And now I've over 350. And I can narrow further by date range. I can select articles between 2010 and 2020, select update, and everything that falls outside of that range is removed. And I only have over 250 articles that appeared from the last 10 years. I'm scrolling down now through a list of refined results, and as a title catches my eye, I can click into that title, and the abstract of the article is displayed for me to read to determine whether it's useful or not. If I want to read the full text, on the left-hand side I can select PDF full text. The full text article is displayed, and from here I have the option to either save the article or to print it. Additionally, the tools on the right-hand side allow you to select cite, and when you select that, different citations for this article are displayed in various styles. And you can then copy and paste that style into your own bibliography if you are writing a report. In the case of getting too many results, you can select this field here to abstract rather than the default. And what this will do is it will display articles where these search terms appeared in the abstract of the article rather than the full text. And I will have fewer results, over 200 initially here. And I can further narrow it down with my refining by selecting full text and the number is reduced again. And furthermore, I can also select peer review and the number is reduced yet further. Wildcards can be used when searching the databases via a question mark, a pound or hash sign, or an asterisk. The question mark is used when we have variant letters in a word, for example, woman or women. A pound or hash sign is used when there are alternate spellings of a word, say for example, the UK and the US version. Or an asterisk can be words of a variation of endings, such as counselling, counsellor, child, children, childhood, for example. Here's a list of results that has not been limited by full text yet. This title has caught my eye and I click into it. I can see where it was published and when it was published, and I can see it was published in Child Abuse and Neglect. Child Abuse and Neglect is one of several individual journal titles held by the Tusla Research Centre. If I go to the main page, select Child Abuse and Neglect, it brings me onto the journal website. Now it's just a matter of copying and pasting the journal title, The Great Recession, from the database list into the journal website search box, hit search and I get my results, and there's the article that I'm looking for, and from here I can download the article. Barnardo's can source articles for you that aren't available through the Research Centre. If you go to the Tusla Library Partnership, select Article Request, the form is displayed, print out, fill in as much information as possible, and then send it on to Barnardo's and we will source and send you the article that you require. That's the end of our tutorial. I hope you found it informative. There was a lot of information to get through, but as I said, you can look over it as many times as you feel you need to. Alternatively, if you have any questions, you can phone us on the number displayed or email us to the resources@barnardos.ie. Again, thanks for your time.